How and when to take the string off your crossbow. That's this episode of Death by Bunjie. I've had a few questions asked recently about how to take the string off your crossbow. People have been asking me that question both on the Facebook page and here on YouTube. So I figured I'd do a video about that, talk about strings. Not only a video about how to get a string on and off of a recurve crossbow like Bunjie here, but also how often do you do it, when do you do it, and how do you know if you need to replace that string. One of the most common reasons to take the string off your crossbow is if you are going to let those limbs rest because the crossbow is not going to be in use. If you hunt with a crossbow during only, like, for example, the archery seasons, and you get done with those archery seasons and you're not going to use it again for another 9 months, might not be a bad idea to take the string off at that time to let the limbs rest during that period. Now, that's an awful long time to sit there with a crossbow strung. Another good reason to take the strings off your crossbow is if you're looking at it and you see there's some fraying to the point where wax is not going to cure it and you think you need to replace the string. If that's the case, let's get the string off of there and get that done. The same thing goes for the serving. Once that serving starts to break down and starts to show some wear, it will affect your arrow flight. That's one of the reasons you want to keep your rail lubricated. It'll make that serving last longer. I did another video about rail lube. I did another video about waxing the string and about when and if you wax the serving on your crossbow. Check out that video. Those are things that will protect that serving over the long term, but you're going to want to make sure if that serving starts getting worn, get that string off of there and go get it reserved. They'll put a new one on, only takes a day or so to have that done. Doesn't even cost all that much. Now, how often do you have to replace the string on your crossbow? Not very often, in my opinion, at least not in my experience. With proper rail lube, and if you get it reserved as needed and keep the serving up to date, and if you properly wax that string, if you do that, strings will last an awful long time. When I purchased this crossbow back in 2010, it came with a basic string. It's Excalibur's Fast Flight string is what it's called. It's got a fast flight serving on it. Really nice string, and essentially that worked great. I didn't have any problems with it. In fact, the only reason that I upgraded that string was because I could get another 10 or 15 feet per second out of the Dynaflight Flemish string that I have on here now. These wrap strings like these twist strings like that are a little bit faster string. They'll actually give you a little bit more feet per second. So I upgraded for that reason. They've been reserved. I've had new servings put on them. But other than that, they are all still functional. They're all still in my accessories box and I can pull them out when needed, stick them on this crossbow in the field and hunt with them. Now, how do you change the string on your crossbow? First of all, if you have a compound crossbow, the one with the pulleys, you're going to need to take it to a shop, most likely, to have any of that string work done. Another option, I suppose, is you can get on eBay or one of those places and buy a bow press, but that's up to you. If you're one of those technical people who likes that kind of thing, looking to get in a bow press. So that's the option if you have a compound. With a recurve like this, the changing of the string is not a complicated process. In fact, I shot a video. I went back and I found this video that I had shot back in 2014, the year that I started this channel on YouTube. So I'm going to show you that video now, the process of changing the string on your recurve crossbow. I've got Bunjie here, my crossbow. It's an Excalibur Axiom I purchased in 2010. And you can see that it doesn't have a string on it. It's been resting since the end of spring gobbler. So what I'm going to do is put a string on it, get it restrung, set it up today because the Maryland crossbow season starts in about a week. I'll be leaving for that, for the opening day of the Maryland crossbow season. And a month after that, about a month from now, we start our Pennsylvania crossbow season. So I'll be getting this ready, showing you a few little tips about how I string my crossbow. This crossbow stringer from Excalibur is basically going to do our job for us. Put that over there. And all we're going to do, get a good foothold on it, and you need to put one, I'll put this on here, get that done. And then we're going to put this other guy over here. And you can see what it does is it basically make sure your ropes are coming in on the inside here, because that's the length that we've got. And basically this is going to serve as the serving. We're just going to cock the crossbow. So we're going to make sure it's on fire, not on safety. In every crossbow you're going to do it differently. But we're just going to pull these back and cock it, and that's it. And I'll put it on safe just so it can't fire and so I can work on it without having to worry about it. What this has done is it simply stretched the limbs farther than it would be if you were cocking the crossbow. So what we're going to do, we're simply going to, we're going to feed this string through the one end and put it in place, just as if you were gonna, this is it will eventually be, right on the end there. Keep your fingers out of the way of this, even though you've got it on safety, just to be extra cautious. What I like to do is just keep my fingers out of the way, but there's really no danger in doing this. Feed it through like this, and then we're simply gonna put it on this side too. And you can see because of the length of this, I've got it shortened up enough that you don't have a problem as far as that's concerned. Now, for the most part, I can look at this right now, okay, and if I tighten this up, I can see that that serving is not in the middle. I want it pretty much in the middle. So I'm going to have to shorten this side or lengthen this side in order to move that serving over a little bit. We'll see what that looks like. We'll put it right on here. Until you release the crossbow stringer, you really can't tell for sure. So right now, it looks like it's going to be pretty close, but I like to keep that in the middle so the serving is wearing evenly, and so it's wearing right in the middle. Then all we're going to do, very simple, we're simply going to fire the crossbow, okay? Got the string so it's not hitting anything, it's not in the way of anything, make sure it's not caught up in anything. And then we're simply going to move this to fire, hold this, and with my thumb, I'm going to fire the crossbow, let go of this, and as you can see, now we have our crossbow with the string on it. I can tell you right now, already, just after looking at it here, there is one problem with this, and that's that the string is far too loose. So I'm going to have to redo this. I'm going to tighten it up so that the string is tightened up. Okay, so what I'm going to do to loosen it up, take that string off. To do that, we're simply going to repeat the process, putting the stringer back on the limbs. Make sure this is in the middle. We're going to move it back to fire, which it already was, and then we're going to cock it. Hold that and put it on safety. Put the safety on. Now, we can take this string off. I thought that went on there a little bit too easy. So we're simply going to take it off, and I'm going to give it a couple of twists. Tighten it up. And then I'm going to reach over here and do the same thing. It just all it did was unravel itself a little bit while it was sitting in there. So that's easy enough to do. We're going to do that. Feed it through, and then we'll put it on here. And it should be a little tighter now. It should be harder to put on the loops at the end of the bow. Rims this time. And there we go. You can see it now. It's actually not hanging down as far as it was. May not be loose enough. Move it back to fire. Carefully hold on to it. Let go. And you can see now that I've tightened it up. Now I still want to go a little bit tighter. Put this on fire. Back to safety. All I'm going to do, move this off. I'm going to give it one turn. Just an even turn so that we're turning the entire half of the string. Now we should be good. We're going to hold on to her. Fire and hole. I'm a lot happier with that being in the middle there. That's a good measurement. And so I'm happy with that. And what I'm going to do, now we're ready to start shooting some arrows. The first thing I noticed about that video is how nice and warm it was back then. Boy, that's awesome. I wish it was nice and warm like that. Today I'm here shooting this video and it's about 40 degrees. Warm enough and my fingers are about frozen. But nonetheless, that is a good process for a crossbow like this. I think that explains and shows you, the best I can at least, how to change the string on a recurve crossbow like this. That's the process for changing the string on this crossbow. Probably similar for other Excalibur models. When you get into different models, I don't have a lot of experience with models other than my own crossbow. I can only tell you the basic principles involved, and I hope that that's helpful. The other thing I'll tell you about that video is that it's just reversing the process to take the string off. You put the stringers here on the end, cock the crossbow, and pull those strings off. You saw me do that in that video, but it's exactly the same process whether you're putting it on or taking that string off. In the comments to my last video about crossbow storage, it was correctly pointed out that Bunjie does not have dissipator pads. But, like I said in that video, if you have dissipator pads, you're going to want to make sure you take those off if you unstring your crossbow. Otherwise, it'll do damage to those pads. Two things that can really affect accuracy that you'll want to take into account when you are changing your strings, when you're taking them off, when you're putting them back on. The first is brace height. On Bunjie here, we have 2 marks on the rail. If your string is up closer to the front of the crossbow, that's going to be a faster shot. It's going to shoot a little higher. If the string is tighter and it's back a little bit, back toward the mark that's this way on the crossbow, toward this back mark, that's going to be a slower shot. That is going to be a little bit lower of a shot. Now, it's not going to make an awful lot of difference, but it does make some difference on the elevation of your shot. Keep that in mind so that when you put the string on, you're going to have to recite it in, but you want to keep that string within those marks, for example, on this crossbow. The other thing that can affect the accuracy when you're talking about strings, on a string like this Flemish Dynaflight string, when you have the twists in the string, the more twists you have, you're going to be tightening that string up. You're going to be pulling the brace height back. Fewer twists, you're going to let it go forward. And keep in mind that if you change the number of twists on one side, but not the other, you might be affecting your windage, your shot to the left or your shot to the right. When you take that string off, not a bad idea to put paper clips on there just to keep the string from twisting any further, or perhaps twist ties from like a loaf of bread. Use a twist tie on your string to keep it from unwinding, and that way store that in a Ziploc bag. When you put it back on, it should be pretty close. That way you won't be too far off when you go to sight the crossbow in next time. It's not a bad idea to keep your string waxed when you take it off. It will reduce the overall amount of string stretch. One of the things that causes string stretch is the string drying out. These strings, when they're first shipped, they have that some sort of a finish on the entire string, and that'll evaporate over time. It'll dry out over time. So that all strings are going to stretch throughout their life. You can prevent that with a good coat of wax. I did another video on that. Check that out and you'll see what I'm talking about. Well, I hope you found this useful. I hope you enjoyed this video from Death by Bunjie. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so already. Check out the Facebook page and ask me questions on there. I love talking about this stuff. I like to see pictures of people's food plots. Pretty soon it'll be time to start putting in food plots. Trail camera pictures, I post those on there as well, so you can check that out if you haven't already. And, of course, until next time, all hail Bunjie!
The second state is number 1 in my book.
Yep, everybody needs that.